Hello and welcome to Higher or Lower, the show brought to you by oddschecker, Sporting Index and SpreadX, where we look ahead to the weekend's football and say if we think the result of the spread betting markets will be higher or lower than the midpoint. I'm your host, George Ellick. I am delighted to be joined by Dan Worth and Jack Wright.
Delighted to be here.
How are you both?
I'm very well.
Are you sore having watched your beloved Norwich be dispatched by Leeds last night at Ellen Road?
No, two very predictable results in the space of a few days. 2 wins to 0 for both Sheffield United, more of them later, and Leeds. And yeah, when your team is in disarray, the least you can do is profit on them.
And Dan, you are desperate for a ticket to Reading's game this weekend, so you can use your platform.
Yeah, please. If anyone has a spare, I'm being punished for being lazy. So rightfully so, really. I didn't get around to getting one before they were sold out. So
why should you get one? Why should someone give their ticket to you?
Well, they shouldn't really. I should be punished for my laziness, but I would very much appreciate it. It's the localist game to where I live.
Great word.
So that's
great word.
So I provide entertainment through new words and things like that. So that's what you can get if you give me your ticket in the Reading end.
So you promise you'll provide entertainment with new words if they get you.
Yeah. I'm sure I can do it.
Especially after a few pides.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. That was quite weird.
I'll work on my wish list for the end of the show if that's all right. I'll see if I can
for
come up with
sure.
something, yeah.
That's fine. Let's get into the weekend's action after that lovely small talk. And we're going to start on Friday night football in the Championship.
Championship?
I know.
What?
Exciting.
Cool.
2 teams. Will they both be Championship sides next season? Sheffield United bidding to get back into the Premier League. Hull bidding to stay in the Championship and Broad currently in a relegation battle. We are looking at the total goals market here. 2.5 to sell, 2.7 to buy. So the midpoint is 2.6. With SpreadX, are we going higher? Are we going lower? I reckon you're both going to go lower. 1, 2, 3.
Correct.
Yes. How have you gone lower?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, but you're the outlier here.
No, the reason you've gone lower is because you've looked at Sheffield United's home form and you've seen that they never concede and they keep so many clean sheets. They don't score many goals either.
Yep.
But like realistically, win most of their games at home 1-0 or 2-0.
Yeah, correct.
But Dan, you are a Reading fan.
I am.
You've had the pleasure of spending the last 18 months watching Ruben Sayers' Reading. How can you go into a game with Ruben Sayers in charge and say lower and for a 2.6 goal line? Because we know that he sets up his teams to be very attacking. We know that unlike other sides, they're not going to go to Bramall Lane. They're not going to sit off. They're not going to sit deep. They're going to look to take the game to them. In Joe Gelhardt, who scored in his debut in the midweek defeat against Millwall, in Mason Burstow, in Abu Kamara, he has this group of young attacking talent that he's starting to get to flourish. And I think, especially given their position where they're on the league right now, there's no way they go there to play for a draw. And I'd be really surprised if Hull don't breach Sheffield United at some point in this game and score a goal. And if they do, then for me, 3 or more has to be the play. So even though I accept that Blades' home form is relentlessly good defensively, I think you've got a side here with how the away team are going to approach this game and what we know about Sayers' sides, and the fact that won't be priced into this because it's only in the infancy of his Hull City tenure.
You covered off all my points, basically. The only thing I've got to say is since Sayers has gone to Hull, I think they've only scored more than once against Leeds. So
But just seen him score once. And against Leeds as well, of all people. 3-3.
That wasn't away from home, though.
Okay.
Yeah, Sheffield United have kept a clean sheet in 7 of their 8 home matches against, in fact, not home, all matches against Hull. Appreciate a lot of those games probably have no bearing on what happens here. But the last 4 meetings between these two, as a result, have gone under. I've actually got a correct score prediction here. I think Sheffield United will win 2-0.
Okay.
And
so just under.
Just under.
Just one little goal on the break from Hull later on and it goes over.
It's not happening. I mean, as I said, you've covered off basically all the reasons that I think this is lower, and the reason is I don't think Hull score.
Yeah. Okay. Jack?
Yeah, I've gone with a low-scoring affair for all the reasons that you've boxed off between you. Mainly, you've covered both arguments and said it better than we could, to be perfectly honest with you.
Thank you very much.
But look, for me, any side like Sheffield United that can limit Norwich to having 0 shots on target, no, it's not a good enough reason. Basically Sheffield United are uber good defensively. I think they can keep Hull at arm's length, and therefore I think that this will just sneak under the lower line here. I certainly don't see it being a goal fest, but we'll wait and see. Friday night
under the lights. Man City Chelsea next up. Early kickoff on Saturday. City What is going on? 2-0 up against PSG in the Champions League, conceding 4 goals, losing the game 4-2. And their issues continue. Chelsea bouncing back to some form with a dominant win over Wolves early in the week. This is a supremacy market, so City are favourites. It's the margin by which City will beat Chelsea. So 0.6 is the midpoint here. So lower is draw or Chelsea, higher is the City win. Obviously, this is at the Etihad. 3, 2, 1. All right.
City are back, aren't they? If you ignore last night.
If you ignore last night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I'm ignoring.
Why?
Yeah, European football doesn't have any bearing on
Right.
the Premier League action. No, I do think City have clearly improved. Last night does me no favour saying that. I appreciate, but I've actually focused a little bit more on Chelsea here. And you said they dominated against Wolves. I'd probably struggle to argue with you, but I do think a better side than Wolves would have caused Chelsea so many more problems and definitely got a result. One of the key things for me is Cole Palmer. I'm almost certain he was playing with an injury against Wolves. He kept looking at the bench to be like, "Come on, when are you going to take me off?" Got clattered on the ankle, which he's nursing. And I think if you can kind of blunt the impact of Cole Palmer and your Man City, then you drastically reduce the chances that Chelsea score here. City, obviously, the home side, which adds to it, and they have a pretty good record against Chelsea in all comps. Won 9 of the last 11. I just feel more comfortable siding with Man City, but it is 2 teams here that are pretty tough to put your finger on. They're kind of all over the place, both of them. So I guess the home advantage is maybe getting to me a little bit more than it should do. But I think City do get a win. I think this is such a good game. This will be such a good game. I think it could have everything, and perhaps I maybe should have put a more volatile market in here, but I haven't. I've gone for supremacy, and I think United win. United, City.
Like you say, City are back. If we actually look at the teams, so they've won 4 games, right? They've got Leicester away. Leicester destined to get relegated out of the league. West Ham at home just before Lopetegui was sacked. 8-0 against Salford. Everyone saw that coming, didn't they?
Yeah, you did.
But League 2 tied at home. A tall draw with City, again, where they just really struggled to get over the line. 2-0 up, conceding twice away from home against a decent side. 6-0 win against Ipswich. Ipswich struggling to fight for relegation. And then beaten 4-2 by PSG. There's absolutely no evidence in my mind that they are back against decent sides. And Chelsea are absolutely a decent team. I honestly think this even money price about City on the fixed odds should come with a health warning. Like, I don't understand how you could be confidently backing Man City to go up against a team who, they might not win the form they were in a couple of weeks ago, but still have quality players, will cause them so many issues defensively, as any good team is doing. Off the back of a Wednesday night trip to France as well. So there's not much, it's a really quick turnaround. Wednesday night game, Saturday early kickoff. I am so strong in terms of opposing City here. And I think Chelsea will go into the game buoyant and bullish, they'll get something out of it.
Yeah, hard to add anything of value to that. That's perfectly well covered. I think for me, the thing with City at this moment in time that is one of the big differences that we've seen over the last years is that when City used to go 2-0 up or 2 goals up, game was over. They'd control it. Rodri was in the middle. He was the metronome there. He was passing it and dictating the tempo, and they were camped in the opposition half. And just saw the game out, or would go on to win 3, 4, 5. And generally the opposition would go, well, let's damage limitation here and see what we can get away with. Now, whatever the side, it's happened 3 times this season where City have been 2 goals up, and even late in games, and opposition of, generally speaking, a much lesser standard than Chelsea, have gone, we're not giving up here, we've got a chance. And once that goal goes in, the first goal goes in, you can see City panic, can't you? Yeah. And I think they're struggling from set pieces. They're struggling in transition with a side like Chelsea that can hit them on the break. They've got obviously the talent up top with Nicholas Jackson that is destined to have one of those games where everything goes in for him. At the moment, it's going to go on the other side. But with the options they've got out wide, I think that's a key element here. That's the one area that I think that City are really struggling to cope with, those wide areas. And there's a lot of rotation available for Chelsea in there. We saw it again in midweek against Wolves. So, really to get both results on side here, as far as the Chelsea win and a draw, I think for me, I can't be taking City at this moment in time for the fact that they're beating not a lot. and they're finding ways to lose or throw away victories against pretty much any opponent.
Yeah, I'm fully in agreement. Amazed that Dan is taking his stance here. This is going to end badly. Crystal Palace hosting Brentford next up in an all-London clash. Shirt numbers here.
Oh.
Whenever I see shirt numbers when Dan sends the email out early in the week, I'm like, I'm going to have to do some work on this. Can't blag it. No, shirt numbers. So this is the total accumulative numbers on the back of the shirts of the goal scorers. So if number 9 scores twice and it's a 2-0 win, it will make up 18 and so on and so forth. 42.5 the midpoint here. 41 to sell, 44 to buy with Sporting Index. Higher or lower? 3, 2, 1.
Ooh.
Jack, I'm sure you've got it all.
Same. Oh, I've got extensive notes on this one.
Good.
I haven't. The way obviously I'm attacking the particular bet is the fact that I'm looking at it going, what do I expect the score to be? Do I expect there to be many goals? Generally speaking, the history in this game is quite low scoring. Brentford have been atrocious away from home. They've tried to kind of grind out a couple of results recently. They did have an emphatic win, but it was against Southampton, wasn't it? Which is kind of everyone's. Oh, thank God we've got Southampton this week. We can go against what we normally do. A couple of 0-0 draws in there, but other than that, a whole host of defeats obviously earlier in the season. So Crystal Palace turned things around a bit recently. I think it's 1 defeat in 11 for them now, and that was against Arsenal. But say some decent performances built with solid foundations. So I think they look to keep a clean sheet and then look to go and nick potentially a goal or two. Which is again which they've done last weekend as well. You look at the likely scorers in this one. Mateta wears 14, Eze 10. On the other side, you've got Mbomo and Wissa. They're generally quite low numbers, and so I don't expect it to be a goal fest. So probably 2, maybe 3 goals in this one, or less than that. So I think lower looks to be the best option for me.
Dan?
Yeah, I completely agree. Like Palace are in good form at the moment, but they haven't been scoring loads of goals in their games. Under 2.5 landed in their last 3. And as you mentioned, Brentford are chalk and cheese, home and away. Only the 2 worst teams in the league have scored fewer goals than Brentford on the road this season. So nothing here screams goal fest to me. You've kind of mentioned the main threats, all of them below 20 to score, which suggests that you need that over 2.5 at least to get a winner here. I just don't think it happens. So I'm pretty confident actually with my lower here.
Nice. Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think 40 odd, it doesn't sound like that many, but you could easily have 4 goals there with single figure digits and you still get under. So yeah, I'm in massive agreement too. And Mbomo is probably the kind of wild card, the one that could upset it with 19, but realistically there are none of those players who are likely to play in advanced positions who have kind of a 30 plus who really throw the canvas pigeons. So I always think this is a seller's market, and today it is no different at all. If you like the idea of playing on shirt numbers and all the other spread betting markets, do click in the link in the show description. There is a new customer offer there for those that don't have a Sporting Index or a SpreadX account, and remember that losses can exceed your initial deposit. 2 more games to cover. Aston Villa versus West Ham. Next up. First match goal. 33.5 is the midpoint with Sporting Index. So this means the first goal, the minute that the first goal of the game is scored in. So lower, you think there'll be a goal in the first 33 minutes. Higher, 0-0 when the clock hits 33. 3, 2, 1. Wow. Snooze fest.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. This one's not going to be one that I'm basing on stats. I've got a feeling Dan might well have a few stats up his sleeve to suggest why he's gone his way. I'm looking at this that I think West Ham have been terrible over the last few weeks. Really poor in the forward areas. There's mitigating circumstances for that. In fact, they've had so many injuries. One element for what I'm saying here is the fact that I think Graham Potter's had a full week on the training field and would assume that a lot of that will be down to keeping shape and looking to blunt Villa at home. So I think they look to keep it tight initially. I don't think West Ham have got too much going forward with strikers. They've got good kind of attacking midfielders, but they're sort of that focal point they're struggling with a little bit, hence why they're looking to actually get John Duran from Aston Villa.
That's a weird one, isn't it? It reminds me of when Villa were bidding for Smith Rowe and Arsenal were like, I don't you get it? Like we don't.
No.
this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Sure, why would Duran, I guess first team football, but like, he's going to get that eventually at Villa, isn't he? He's getting it now.
Pre-season, he was given the irons on TikTok or whatever it was, so there is a little weird thing going on there. Yeah, I think he thought he was going in the summer, and then
what's TikTok like?
Great, mate. Great. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll see your face pop on there from time to time.
I know.
I always make sure I watch the
do
duration.
Do you like it?
Yeah, from my Reading account, because sometimes it's a little bit more relevant.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Have you finished?
I could do if you want.
No,
but there's more. The other element is, of course, there was a massive game for Aston Villa. Obviously, being the fact I'm sort of focusing on the fact that I think Villa might be a little bit more blunt than normal, and that's based on the fact that their big game against Monaco in the Champions League, where they're a little bit disappointed. Emery said that he'd made a bit of a mistake as far as his team selection for that game is concerned, and Villa's record immediately after the Champions League games this season has been really poor, and they've struggled, and they've obviously now slipped out of the top 8, so they've got a massive game against Celtic next week to kind of focus to a certain degree on as well. But they won their first game after their first Champions League match. That was against Wolves, so it was kind of one of them they would probably expect to do, but since then have drawn a couple and lost 3. So I just feel that this could be a slow, sluggish performance, and therefore the goals will come later rather than earlier.
Dan?
Yeah, I've got a few stats, but the West Ham not really having a striker is a huge worry here, because there is a pretty big over-reliance on Villa being the team that score first. Thankfully, West Ham have conceded more goals than any other team in the first 15 minutes of games this season. Villa are third bottom for that stat, so they're right down there too. As I said, you're probably looking at Kudus or even Paqueta as their main goal threat, which is not really ideal. These teams met just the other day in the FA Cup, where Paqueta, who I just mentioned, scored in the 9th minute, so that's a nice one. The last 5 between these two, you've got 9th minute, 4th minute, 29th minute, 30th minute, 17th minute. So all of the last 5 meetings have seen a goal come in by the 30th quite easily under this line. So yeah, as I said, I'm quite heavily reliant on Villa being the team to score first here, I think. But yeah, I'm happy to take on that line.
Yeah, Villa's games at home recently have been relatively high scoring. If you look at their home games in all competitions, there's that 2-1 against West Ham, you mentioned, but a 2-1 against Leicester, 2-1 against Brighton, 2-1 against Man City, 3-1 against Brentford, 2-1 against Crystal Palace. The only outliers are the 1-0 win over Saints and the 0-0 against Juventus. So given that we've got Graham Potter coming in at West Ham, who we know is a pretty attacking-minded manager, someone whose games are relatively open, and a Villa side that's struggling to keep clean sheets at home but always score, I'd probably be backing over goals here. And if I think they're going to be over goals, then it makes sense for one of them to come in the first third of the game. So that is my thinking here, and thinking it's going to be a lower, but certainly not one I'm overly strong on, I wouldn't say. Right, last game we're going to cover before we get to our naps. Fulham hosting Manchester United in the Louis Saha derby. Total goal minutes here. Been an interesting time for total goal minutes, hasn't it, recently? Yeah,
but someone absolutely nailed it recently.
The look on your face when I went higher for Ipswich City, and I made up, what, 90-point profit or something?
I've
You all right?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking Ipswich. I've struggled with Ipswich a lot, but then I may not be looking to them later on this show. So.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Total goal minutes here is 144 with Sporty Index, 133 to sell, 149 to buy. The total cumulative minutes of goals scored within the game. 3, 2, 1. Hey, we all agree.
All on the higher.
Yeah.
Dan the man.
I have written down here a question. This Fulham versus Man United. Yeah, I'd say as a kid, this is like one of the clashes that just always seem to be on. I don't know
when
if you
were
ever
a kid.
had that.
When you were a kid,
yeah,
Fulham would have been in like, what was there in like Division 2?
How old do you think I am?
30.
Yeah, fair. No, not far off.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you think of yourself as a kid when you were like, 14? I think being a kid would be like 6, 7.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we only had like one game every month on TV, so it was not that regular.
So I thought that was when the war was on.
Fulham's first season in the Prem was 01-02, so yeah, you'd have been 10.
Yeah, to be fair, that's probably the golden. I'd say 01-02 to like.
That's definitely the best champ man, isn't it? 01-02.
Yeah.
Madeira.
Anyway, rubbish question. Let's move on.
Was it even a question? Or you just said?
No, just saying. Well, my question was, what clashes do you think of when you think of being youthful and watching
United
the Premier League?
Southampton.
Yeah. Weird that it's both Man United.
Well,
Norwich Millwall for me.
Yeah. Ooh. It's like not Oxford or Reading.
The Alex Neil derby. More about him later.
Oh, lovely. See, we don't just throw this together. That was a perfect tease.
Yeah.
This is a long build-up to me basically saying I don't really have any stats to back up my point here. This game has been pretty low scoring in recent times. But United just seem intent on surprising us time and time again. Like, what United are we going to get? I am quite strong here that Fulham win this game. United have won just 2 games away from home in the Premier League this season, which is right down the bottom for teams. They're all over the place. And I just think 1-4-4 is quite a low line. And I think for a team that are pretty bad in Man United...
Worst in history, or some would have you believe.
Yeah. Not the worst team in history, but the worst Man United team in history, do you mean? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Potentially, for sure. And I think Fulham can just cause United all sorts of troubles here. And I don't think this Man United side you can write off not scoring, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure it does. But I think Fulham could have a field day against Man United, but I would probably back United to get on the score sheet. So I think goals. I think it could just be all over the place, to be honest.
Jack?
I fancy Fulham to win as well. One element that you didn't mention in there, I think is a massive one for this game, is that Man United play Rangers tonight, Thursday night.
Yeah.
And so after we recorded this, so that's going to take a fair amount out of them. You'd imagine that's the sort of game that they actually would get up for and put in a performance. And what normally happens after a performance like that in is that they throw in a shocker. This is obviously on Sunday evening, late game Sunday evening, and I just feel that United can go there and get beat. They've lost 4 of their last 6 in the Premier League, and all of those by 2 or more goals. So would suggest that I do think, like you, Fulham don't tend to keep clean sheets, so you'd expect United to score here. I expect Fulham to win, so I'm expecting there to be 3 or more goals in it. The 11 league games under Amorim, he's only won 3, drawn 2 and lost 6. And I say a lot of all those defeats have been by 2 or more goals. So see that trend continue, and I think this is a great opportunity for Fulham to go and put in what we originally kind of officially classify as a surprise win. But would it be a surprise to go and see him rack up a fairly convincing win against this Man United side, George?
No, not really. I mean, just again, having looked initially relatively solid under Amorim, their defensively now just looks so bad. I kind of feel like getting with goals in any United game is a pretty good way to go, especially because for once you have a couple of relatively informed attacking players. Amad Diallo obviously being the obvious one for United, who's playing so well at the moment. There's a constant goal threat and is enjoying playing in these games where both teams seem to attack in transition because neither team is really sitting back. This is kind of an auto bet for me, where if it's United game and the line is relatively low, then it has to be a higher in my mind. On to our naps, our best bets of the weekend. Dan, coming to you.
Yeah, I mentioned Ipswich. I'm going to the Ipswich game. They welcome Liverpool.
You going to the Ipswich game?
No.
Oh.
I couldn't do that to him.
That was a weird turn of phrase.
But yeah, I'm going to the Ipswich game from my nap of the week. Liverpool versus Ipswich. A buy of penalty goal minutes at 20.5. Jack and I spoke about this offline. He put me onto it, so I have to give him credit if it comes.
So it's his nap.
And blame him if it goes wrong. No, he mentioned it, and I looked at the stats, and it's quite lovely. Liverpool have been given 5 penalties this season. No surprise, they've scored all 5. Ipswich have been given 5 penalties also this season, second highest. No, they haven't. They've given away 5 penalties this season. They've received 2, and they've scored 100% of them. Man on the whistle is Michael Salisbury. He absolutely loves a pen, or he did last season. Average of 0.7 penalties per game in his 14 games officiated last season. But you'll like this one. No penalties given this season.
Yes,
the only referee to have an average of 0.00 because he's given none.
Is it just reversing itself from last season?
Maybe it's equaling itself out, but now we are due. That's unsustainable. 20.5. Liverpool penalty, Mo Salah scores. There we go.
No penalties given in 12 games across all competitions for him now, so there is definitely one due. And I don't think he's refereed Liverpool before, let alone refereed at Anfield before. So it all boils up towards a penalty at the Kop end, Salah to score it. Not that we're predicting the future here.
The whistle's already just.
If I was him, I'd give one.
Yeah, me too.
Jack?
I'm going to go for Wolves versus Arsenal. And as you know, I like a little bit of low risk, high reward. So I'm going with player goal minutes. And of course, I'm going with, and I normally this takes us back to when we first started doing these shows. And I just said Gabriel and left it there for, any one of the 3 Gabriels for Arsenal. But it is the centre back, Gabriel. I'm going for his player goal minutes. The midpoint is 6.5. So obviously with that, I'm going higher. You know that if he doesn't score, then the worst case scenario is you lose 6.5. Well, on this basis, 6.5 times your stake, which is a strong position to be in. Now, in the worst case scenario, obviously there's unlimited upside for this one. And it's centred basically around how terrible Wolves are at defending set pieces, considered the most goals in the Premier League from set pieces. They were woeful against Chelsea on Monday night. Two of those 3 goals come from set pieces, albeit recycled to a certain degree. And also Cucurella being left with freedom of the box. It's not the first time we've seen that from Wolves' defence, despite playing 3 centre-backs. So, and of course, Arsenal are the strongest team at scoring from set pieces. Gabriel is one of their main targets for that. He had 3 attempts at goal last night in the Champions League as well. Didn't score, but I think he's due one. And taking his player goal minutes here at a midpoint at 6.5.
Love it.
Love it.
Championship for me, and this is another one that Jack and I discussed earlier in the week. For some reason, Millwall games are having ridiculously low goal lines. And I know that Millwall generally are a team that don't score many goals, but they've got a manager in Alex Neil who, isn't particularly defensive minded. He's not particularly pragmatic. His teams, when they're good, are generally relatively high scoring and relatively open. And they're playing against a Luton side. They travel to a Luton team who I watched their defeat 3-2 against Oxford on Tuesday night, and they are defensively an absolute shambles. So for the goal line here to be 2.2 is madness to me. But I'm going to take goals cubed because in case it does go mad. And Luton played in a game on Tuesday night, they made up 125. So I think it makes sense to play the cubed at 27, where 3 goals would be breaking even, in case it does go nuts. And there's a lot riding on this game. 2 teams who did not anticipate there being in a relegation scrap when the season started, very much in one now. Millwall played a game in midweek, 2-2 against Cardiff, where they scored twice early and conceded late. I have no idea why this goal line is so low. I can't work it out at all.
No. I fancy 2-2 in that.
You called it as well on Tuesday night. There we have it. That's this week's Higher or Lower, brought to you by oddschecker, sponsored by Sporting Index and SpreadX. As I mentioned, there is a link in the show description for you to click on and set up a new account. If you haven't already got one, T's and C's do apply. There is a new customer offer there as well, so make sure you check that out. Oddschecker have you covered for all of your fixed odds betting needs. WhoScored.com is the place to go for all of your stats-based research. We'll be back again next week. Thank you to the guys.
Thank you.
George.
Enjoy the weekend's football and please ensure that you're gambling responsibly.